We read here, behold, I stand at the door and knock. If any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. That's talking about salvation. Jesus outside people's lives, outside people's lives, he wants to come in. He wants to be on the throne. He wants to help you and bless you, amen? And he wants to fellowship with you, sup with you, okay? He wants to make your life achieve its purpose and goal and do something of eternal value and not just spin your wheels watching telly or drinking grog all day. Okay? So there's the voice of God inviting us to salvation. Secondly, there is the voice of God to follow Jesus in our life's work and purpose. We read in John 10 verse 27, my sheep hear my voice, and I know them, and they what? Follow me. John 10:27 on the screen, please. There it is. My sheep hear my voice, I know. So we hear his voice, correct? There's the voice. My sheep, as Christians, hear my voice. And I know them, and they follow me. So what do Christians do? To hear his voice, we follow Jesus. For Christians to ask, Lord, what wilt thou have me to do? God, your plans are best for my life. Please show me your plans. Here am I, Lord, send me. I'm available to do what you want. Give me the courage and the wisdom and the resources and the friends and the team to do it. You know, you want to be a great man, woman of God, you need a great team of Christian workers. That's why we stick with church. I'm your friend. I've got a network, and this network can be part of your network. Amen? And so ask God, Lord, what will they have me to do? The third way we hear God's voice is to listen to God's voice in preaching, in opportunities, in ideas, or listen to God's still small voice. 1 Kings 19 verse 12, we read this verse. After the earthquake, a fire, but the Lord was not in the fire. And after the fire, a what? After the fire, a what? Still small voice is how God spoke to that man of God. A still small voice. Listen to the still small voice of God. He'll show you what to do, where to go, how to do it, when to do it, and what not to do. Okay? So you listen to God's still small voice. Number 4, how do you hear God's voice? Is you tell God what Samuel said in 1 Samuel 3 verse 10. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. He heard the voice of God. He said, speak, Lord, for thy servant. The Lord came and I like this verse. Look at this verse. There's something interesting about this verse. What do you see? Something a bit interesting and strange about this verse. The Lord came and stood and called at that time, Samuel, Samuel, and Samuel answered, speak, for thy servant heareth. Eli said, say, speak, Lord. But he only said speak. He was probably only about 5 or 6 years of age at this time, and he was hearing the voice of God. And what's this interesting thing about this verse? There's something interesting here about this verse. What is it? Stood. That's a little bit surprising. Jehovah God came, as Lord is capitals, so as Jehovah came and stood and called as at other times. So Jehovah God appeared as a what? A man, and stood next to Samuel as a young man and said, Samuel, Samuel, Keith, Keith, Hammond, Robert. Interesting thing, that's what the Lord said to Samuel. He's named twice. Why did he say his name twice? Just in case he didn't quite hear it right the first time. Many times God quotes people's names twice to get their attention. And Samuel said, speak, for thy servant heareth. And that's a wonderful thing that every young boy, every young girl, every Christian should get from what's saying. Speak, Lord, for thy servant heareth. Speak, Lord, I am your servant. I'm listening to what you're saying. I want to do it. Show me how to do it, Lord. Amen? Is that a good idea? And if you do that, you will be shocked at what God shows you to do. He'll say, here's the project. Oh, that'll take a bit of time and money to fix. So what? You do the project and you discover many new ideas and you meet many new friends. Amen? God's given you projects to do. Do it. Okay? Next one. How can we hear God's voice? Number 5. Do not listen to the voice of the world, the flesh, the devil, or ungodly people. We read that in Matthew 4, 1-11. Amen? Don't listen to the dopey devil and the dopey devil's crowd and the flesh and the world. Number 6. How do we hear God's voice? Obey God in what He tells you to do today. Okay? Does that make sense? Because if you do not do what God tells you to do today, you're not likely to do the bigger things, the bigger projects that God gives you later. He that is faithful in that which is least is faithful also in much. Okay? If you do the little jobs well, you're likely to do the big jobs well. Amen? And Psalm 81:11, but my people would not hearken to my voice, and Israel would know of me. What a shame. They did not listen to God's voice, and they ended up missing their plan, God's plan to be a light to the Gentiles. They missed God's plan to be blessed, and they ended up in captivity in Babylon. Lost their city, lost their temple, lost their families. They were castrated as eunuchs in Babylon. Can you see how much they lost? Because they would not listen to God's voice. And if you listen to God's voice, you can become a very big person in God's kingdom and do some incredibly amazing, mighty, big things. But if you don't listen to God's voice, you'll just be just a nobody. Nothing much happens, nothing much ever gets done. Watch TV, smoke cigarettes, gardens like that, okay? What do you want to do? Be somebody of God, in God's kingdom? Jesus I know, and Paul I know, but who are you? The evil spirits said to the 7 sons of Sceva. That tells us that you can be famous in the spirit world. And I tell you what, there's a lot of Christians who are very famous, very well known in the spirit world. And there's other Christians who are nobodies in the spirit world. Some Christians are very well known in heaven because angels are happy with you leading their people to Christ. Amen? So my dear friend, will you hear the voice of God? Will you reject the voice of the world, the flesh, and the devil? What do you reckon you're going to do? Amen? The voice of God leads you to very exciting places if you obey it. The voice of the world, flesh, and devil lead you into a pit of despair, depression, uselessness, anxiety, loss, trouble, problems. Whose voice do you want to listen to? You listen to God's voice. And you get the voice of God from the Bible, from preaching, from obedience, and from doing what God tells you. Amen? Let's listen to the voice of God. Because God has big, big plans for you. Michael Gurney, listen to the voice of God. He's having a fantastic ministry, satellite TV broadcast in the Middle East and USA. He's made thousands of Christian friends. I'm not saying go to America, I'm saying stay here. Okay? We work together. But we work together, amen? And God has big plans for you. But you've got to stick with godly Christians to work together as a team, amen? Because you and I cannot do it on our own. We need to humble ourselves and work together as a team. And we have fantastic opportunities when we do. Peter Morris went with me to Kenya in 1994, and now he's a missionary in Kenya. Okay? Okay, so many things await those who listen to God's voice. Let's stand and we shall pray.